Hello and welcome to Train Symphonetic. And today's video, we're not up here, we're not in the garden, we're actually in the kitchen. We're going to be making a cake. I know that that's nothing train related, but I thought why not give you something different to watch. So let's have the titles and then we can see me down in the kitchen. Here we are in the kitchen and I've got some mixing bowl and for ingredients we got baking powder, we got cocoa powder, we got to whisk, we got flour, and we got sugar. We got quite a few ingredients. I'll go through them as we weigh them out. The first thing we're weighing out is the sugar, which is 200 grams of caster sugar. We're weighing that out and then we're going to put it in the dish. The match thing you can see on the side is our scale. Our next ingredient is going to be 3 heaped tablespoons of cocoa powder. So just load it up nice and high and put it in. We need to measure the weight of them, but I'll do that a bit later on as we want to keep everything in line. I'll just put the lid back on and put it to one side. Now we need to bring it up to, we need the cocoa powder and flour together to come up to 200 grams. So I'm just weighing that out. We weighed 160 as it was 40 grams of cocoa powder. Then we need to go into the fridge and get some softened butter. We're going to be needing 20 grams of softened butter. And we're going to weigh that out. A little trick with working with butter is to look at your pot, see what weight it was, then mark it into five sections if it's a 500 gram butter. We have just added 200 grams worth of butter into the pot. The last thing we now need to add is our eggs. We're going to crack them into the cup before we put them into the bowl, because if they have gone off, we don't want to spoil the complete mix. As I was saying with the butter, if you want to split the butter up into, draw some lines on it and split it up so you got for roughly fifths. You know that 2/5 of 500 grams will give you 200 grams. So we're going to gradually add the eggs, and that's 4 eggs. Eggs we haven't had any trouble getting hold of. Our biggest problem has been caster sugar. If you don't want to make a chocolate cake, the only change you do is you put in 200 grams of flour instead of 160 and cocoa powder, and then you put a few drops of vanilla essence in. Last thing we're putting in is baking powder, 1 teaspoon, and just weigh that out and add it to the mix. If you're making this on a larger scale, this is what they call a pound cake, because you have a pound of each ingredient. Next job is to whisk it up. So we've got a nice whisk here. I had a distraction here. We were just checking we had enough flour in, so we're just waiting for weight of the cocoa powder. But we're going to give this a good stirring in a moment. When that's happening, it's going to go into high speed. But I did have help from Mum, she was just there in the background. So let's carry on with making this cake. For oil's just there because we use it in our chip fryer. Yeah. And I did record this originally, but I made a mistake with my settings on my camera, so I lost the sound. So we're going to get on with this in a moment, and we're going to go into high speed and mix the cake in high speed. We've been making cakes for about a few weeks now. So that's baking powder we have just added, as we forgot to put that in. That was 1 tablespoon. Now we can mix it up. This should go into high speed in a moment. There we are, we're now in high speed. You can see how it's mixing. You want it to be a nice even texture, and the nice thing with chocolate cake is it's much easier to tell when it's mixed than a plain cake, because it just go one nice colour. So we're now scraping the leftovers off, and that was our high speed done. So you can see that that's a nice consistency throughout, a standard colour throughout, and it just looked yummy. We have 2 baking dishes with greaseproof paper at the bottom, which we're going to split this in. So about my arm here, we're putting the mixer to one side. So our next job is going to be evenly distributing this between 2 pots. And for one job I forgot to say earlier is we preheat the oven. The temperature will be at the bottom just now. So we put this into a hot oven, and the timings will be down at the bottom as well. But we're trying to give it an equal amount between the 2 different trays. We're doing 2 cakes because we're making a chocolate sponge cake with buttercream in the middle. So we're just trying to keep these even amounts, scraping everything out of the dish. And then we're going to even it out, so try to get every last spot out. And that's about it. Scrape the last little bit into the other dish. So this will then be even out in a minute. A little hint is to put your dish into the water into the dish straight away so it doesn't stick. So we're just trying to make sure that this is level and all the way around the edge. And then once this is done, we can put it into the oven. We want both of them to be level-ish. They will naturally level a bit. And then when this is done, we can stick it in the oven. So the temperature of the oven and timing will be coming up onto the screen again now. And then when it's ready, we can take it out. So the ingredients is 200 grams of softened butter, 200 grams of casting sugar, 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and then make that up with self-raising flour up to 200 grams. Then it's 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 4 eggs. This is when it's taken out of the oven. Just tap the top to make sure that it's springing back. As you can see just here, it's quite springy, and that means it's ready. Now we're going to make the buttercream, which is 100 grams of softened butter. We had to make it up with marge and proper butter, but that's quite easy. So about my arm again. So that's just adding for some normal butter, as we don't keep our butter we're going to eat in the fridge. We just leave it on the side so it's nice and soft when you spread it on your toast. So we add that to the dish, making sure to scrape any butter out. Then we're going to add our icing sugar, which is 100 grams again. So we weigh out to 100 grams. Icing sugar have been the hardest thing to get a hold of, but now the shops seem to have it back in stock. So that's 100 grams of icing sugar. And then we're going to add that to the mix. You can see Mum was helping with this. Then for the last thing is 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder, but if you're doing it plain, it will be a drop of vanilla essence. So we're going to give this a stir again, back into high speed, and you'll notice that this gradually changed texture. It first go lumpy, then it go grainy, and then finally it go buttery. As you can see, it's getting quite a nice butter consistency. So we then just spread it out onto the cake. Remember to leave just a little bit in the pot so that you can lip the ball out afterwards. So if you're doing a Victoria sponge, you would put jam down. If you're doing a posh Victoria sponge, you can put jam and strawberry down. But this is a chocolate cake, so we just put the chocolate down on it. So that's now nice and level. Once it's level, we then go and put the last bit of the cake on, but we do want to try to use as much of this lovely icing as we can. So we just grate the last bit out, and then I can lift the dish out. The final bit now is to put the lid on, and that's a cake. Now for some shots just showing what the cake looked like around the side. And this cake was made last week and we have eaten it. It was a delicious cake, and as you can see, we have cut a piece out. Really easy to cut. And in a second we'll show you what it is. That's a lovely cake. It was really nice. I hope you enjoyed that video. It was something different. I normally don't cook, but I can if I want to. I normally let Mum and Dad cook as they're better chefs than me. But we enjoyed the cake. It done us for 4 days and it was really tasty. So if you want to make a cake and share your making on YouTube, make sure to tag me, as I challenge anyone to make a cake. So I'll see you on Wednesday for the live stream when we're going to be doing for latest Saturn Carlisle model. So I'll see you all then. Thank you very much, Richard.